1995 through 1997, joining us. One of,
77.
I don't know how many seniors can say they won 3 state championships in any sport in Indiana. Shawn, magical run for you guys, 95, 96, 97. I remember broadcasting those games. First of all, let's just talk about
August of 2008.
the difference between the 3 teams were so significant. 3 different quarterbacks.
Absolutely.
All the pieces of the puzzle were completely different.
Yeah.
But most importantly, the mindset was always the same, and it's called the Penn Way.
Yeah,
Now,
absolutely.
here's the deal. Big part of this book is going to be about the Penn Way. What is the Penn Way?
Oh, I mean, it's the little things, right? A great example, when we were getting ready, so we come off 2 state championships heading into my senior year, and when we were preparing, and we just got the new weight room was built over at Penn, so it was our first year in that new facility, and every day when we got ready as seniors and we were trying to lead the team to enter into the season, we never talked about we want to win the state championship. Even though we had won back-to-back and we had, all this experience, had been to the Dome, our expectation was we need to prepare for Valparaiso, and Valparaiso was the first game of the season, right? So that's where our focus was, and I think for every day it was what can you do that day to get better? What are the things that we needed to focus on? The little picture over the big pictures. You take care of the little things, and the big things take care of themselves, right? And that came from the top down, from Coach Giesman on down through the rest of the coaching staff. Day to day, week to week, game by game. And that focus and that effort was on the little things, even play to play. And I think that's the fundamental that made us as successful as we were for the sustained amount of time, because you're focused on the little things, on what you could do right now to be better, to prepare yourself for the game.
Is the Penn Way part of your mantra in everyday life and business and in your own life?
I think indirectly, yeah. I mean, one of the big things that I learned at Penn High School, being such a large high school, and there's so many students there, and so many guys came out for football, is there's a ton of talent. You're competing against those guys, and the opportunities that you get are slim. And so the biggest thing that I took out of Penn High School and my experience as a Kingsman in football in particular is you have to make good at the opportunities that you're given, because you don't know how many are going to come, and you don't know when the next one's going to come, so you have to take the one that's in front of you.
We've had a lot of guys, especially from the Wild Bunch defense, come in and talk about their experience. Going on the other side of the ball, the famed Gold Rush offense, you were a major part of that, especially during your senior year. Mm-hmm. Talk about that famed Gold Rush offense.
Heading into my junior year, my only goal was to get the Gold Rush sticker on the back of my helmet. And if you'd asked me anytime between the ages of like 13 and 17 what I wanted to be, I would have said I wanted to be a Kingsman running back. That's what I wanted to be. My head didn't think about college or about later on in life. That's what I wanted to be. And I look at the guys that came before me, right? I know you guys talked like Jeremy Lowry earlier in another interview, and I used to watch his highlight film every night, and I emulated. I wanted to have that kind of success. So when I got the Gold Rush sticker, you get to put on the back of my helmet. And when I first became a starter my junior year, I was one of the proudest moments. That was like really a crowning thing that I to this day am very proud of. I remember coming home. You leave your equipment in the locker room and everything. I took my helmet home that night, and I took it, and I took pictures of it, and I showed my parents, because I was just so proud that I got to represent that name that so many other players that I had been looking up to over the years that they got to have. So that was a big thing for me. It was really, really meaningful thing in my life. And as far as being a part of the offense and being there on Friday nights, and the energy that you feel, the adrenaline, especially like the first plays of the game, where it's fresh out. You're just so nervous about the first carry, and getting to touch the ball and run with it, and be that broader representative. Like, so if you got the ball, and you were representing the entire offense when you got that ball. And we always talked about protecting the ball, for you and your teammates, because you're the one that's got to carry it for the team. And there was nothing like it. I still get chills right now thinking about that, and hearing the crowd, and just lining up and sitting in the huddle calling plays. It's super exciting, and to this day it's something that super proud to have been a part of.
You look back on the state championships, won in that amazing stretch of 3 in a row. And that's a rare time in Indiana high school football, especially at the big school level. And to do it with 3 quarterbacks is just mind-blowing to me. But it was about the expectations for the player. The one thing that I keep hearing in this Penn Way thing is about loyalty, pride, but the thing that keeps popping into my head is expectations, your level of expectations. So going into your sophomore year, your expectations were what? What were your expectations going into your junior year? And finally, your expectations going into your senior year. Can you share the 3 dynamics if you can, recall?
Yeah, so I had no expectations going into my sophomore year. I was kind of buried. There were some other players in my class that were, I probably had a little higher potential at the time. I don't know if that's the right word, because I think that I had a pretty high ceiling myself, and I think the coaches recognized that. But you come in and you're just really expected to learn the ropes. You're expected to do, what the older guys do, particularly the seniors, and you follow their example. And as long as you're doing that, I think the coaches actually said that, you do what seniors do, and that's you're meeting expectations. I remember. I ended up starting in the junior varsity, but I didn't end up starting like the very first game because another player had played too much on Friday night the night before, and so I got slotted in to play in a game, and I ended up having a really good game there and started JV the rest of the year. And so turning that experience around, going into my junior year, I really my internal expectation was just to be a starter. And I had a ways to go in the development of it, so it was just get stronger, get faster, get better. It's still follow the seniors' lead, because they're the guys and they own that particular team. But try to start stepping out on my own and start growing in confidence and those kind of things. And I think I met that for the most of the part. And then senior year is I would say it's 2 things. It's one, you have to do all the things right. You have to hustle. You have to have the discipline and all those things, because as I was coming up and I said I need to look to the seniors for the example. As a senior, you're expected to set the example. And as far as performing on a day-to-day and game-to-game basis, basically it was I had to get the job done or the job was not getting done. And that's kind of the expectation that I think you have as a senior in the program at the time.
When you took your helmet off that last time, what did that feel like?
Well, it was jubilation, just because we had won the state championship. That's the way you want to go out. I actually remember, being part of it 3 times, you get to see a lot of different experiences as it. And I remember in 1995, there were guys, they were all, crying after the game. And I remember Coach Wagner going up to him, he's like, why are you crying? This is how you want it to end. This is the way you want to go out. But it's bittersweet, you know it's the end, it's your last game, you're at the pinnacle, but at the same time, you're not going to put that helmet on again. And it's the last time that you're going to take the field with the teammates, the last time that the coaching staff is going to be your coaches. And so it was bittersweet, and I was in tears, after the game, for a number of different reasons. It was a trying game. It was, we were down. It was a comeback. Just I think like all 3 of our titles were we were playing against a team that was physically superior or more talented than our team, and we overcame. We slayed the giant. And having with that combined with just the magnitude of it and then the finality of it, I was very somber and excited and proud and all the different emotions that go along with it. But I guess at the end of it, mostly excited and mostly I think I just the amount of pride for what we had accomplished that year and the previous 2 years.
Chris has Coach Giesman, Chris has a great knack of getting kids to play above and beyond their own skill level. Everybody, your team that you're playing is the best team in the history of American tackle football, no matter where you are in the grand scheme of things. Did you ever get tired of hearing those, but on paper you knew?
I always believed it. I mean, whether, it was, we didn't know what we had when you start the season, right? So getting up for that first game, it's just, you've got to be prepared because you don't know what you have, you don't know what the other teams have. But even as you go through the course of the year and we started having success, the coaches obviously kept a lot of humility. We go through the films and, I remember getting critiqued. We're looking at films. I took a handoff. I made the wrong cut. And Coach Giesen's pauses it, stops the film, and he's yelling at me, "God damn it, McGann, what are you doing in there? What are you making the wrong cut?" It's play, and then I break a tackle and ran for like a 30-yard touchdown. He goes, "I guess it worked out for you that time, but I know next time you're not going to make the wrong cut." And so so you get that humility, right? Because nobody's perfect, and they're always stretching to get better. And as far as your opponents go, you knew there were some weaker teams that were out there, but every team has good players, right? And so you'd always, you'd either pick up on the things you need to work on and why that made us vulnerable for that week, or pick up on a particular player that you'd always used to say, it's like, boy, I really wish we had that guy on our team, right? So, and you put the fear of God in you a little bit, over those kind of things. And I bought into it 100%. Like whether we were playing, a team that was 0-4 and we were going into them, I felt it was like the biggest game of the season. That's how it felt every week. But then culturally, right? Like I mentioned earlier, you don't know how many opportunities you're going to get. So even for those games, I knew like I'm only going to get a certain number of carries. I'm only going to be on the field a certain amount of time, and I want to make the most of that, right? So I was bringing it every single play, no matter what the score was or anything, and that filtered down. I mean, we put our second team in, and we continue to run up the score because those guys were so jazzed about getting in the game and getting a chance to play and getting an opportunity in a varsity game. So it's top to bottom. It was week to week and embedded into the culture. So.
Throughout this project, we've come to grasp that this is not just a regular team. It's a huge sense of family,
Yeah.
and it starts with the coaching staff. But talk about that aspect about it, and any coaches, all of them that you've admired throughout your playing career.
Oh, I mean, well, it starts with Coach Giesman, right? Obviously, he was already the legend. When we came in, when I came in as a freshman. But for everybody, I had a little bit of a different point of view than the rest of the guys in my class. I didn't move into the Penn system until I was in 8th grade, and a lot of those guys came up. And so, those guys from, the time that Pee Wee football starts, right? They're ingrained with the culture, right? Because Penn has an influence over all that, and going to the football camps every summer and things like that. The guys get the Penn culture and the Penn way built up, from the basically very foundations of like people's athletic careers. So I didn't come in until late. So I didn't get it right away, and that actually held me back. So I didn't start as a freshman in high school, right? On the freshman football team, I was second team. Even though I ended up having a much really successful career, because I didn't get it right away. And then, but the cohesiveness of the coaching staff, I never had a question of who was going to be my coach, and who was going to lead the offense, and who was going to lead this. And I think that cohesiveness over decades, right, rubs off onto the players, and the guys that I graduated with, I'm still friends with to this day. And I was texting the guys, earlier today, not even about this kind of, this interview or stuff. It was just regular, day-to-day friendship chit chat. So it's just really amazing, the way that the coaching staff has built the chemistry that's needed in order to gel as an internal unit, and how's that filtered down as each class has come through. In particular, the coaches that I looked up to, obviously my position coach. So Dan Kyle was a running back coach for a couple of years, and I know that he was a former Penn running back, and so I was really jazzed about learning under him and getting his tutelage. And then Coach Joe Sassano took over my senior year, and I had a really good relationship with him. Learned a lot from him, and still see him to this day. I just see all of them as the same coach that I had there, and they still today feel bigger than life to me, and I still look up to them even though I'm adult now. I still walk in and feel like this 17-year-old kid who's getting ready to play a game.
Funniest Penn moment?
I don't know about funny moments. I have an ironic moment.
Indulge me.
Yeah, so going through fall camp, right? So we'd come off the 2 championships, and I don't know, the enthusiasm of the team was just skyrocketing level as we started out in 2-a-days. And quite often the defense gels before the offense does, as the offense gets installed, and you work on timing and things like that. And we got through our first internal scrimmage, and Coach Giesman, gathers us all together, and the offense did not have a very good day, and he pulls the whole offense aside, and he's just shaking his head in front of us. We're all kneeling in front of him, and he just says, "Boy, guys, so I'm not ready to give up on you, but this collectively is the worst group of talent that I've ever had here." I'm like, "I'm not giving up yet, but I'm, you guys really got a long way to go. This is the worst talent that we've ever had." And I remember just like hanging my head afterwards, and I remember Kevin Nicolini, our quarterback, we were talking about it afterwards, and just thinking, that can't be right. But lo and behold, I break the school touchdown record, and then Kevin broke the passing touchdown pass record, and we ran through the state championships. And we had, if you look back at the players that were on that offense, between and from top to bottom, from the seniors to sophomores or juniors and sophomores, you look at that, you've got some guys that may be some of the best ever at those positions. So we came a long way, and it was ironic to hear Coach Giesman think back in that moment where we said we didn't have any talent, when it turns out that I would argue that from a skill position, we may have been one of the most talented teams he's had.
He had a way of motivating you, didn't he?
He did. He always knew how to push a button, right? And it was that balance of keeping you humble, and every once in a while I'll throw you a bone and tell you good job.
All right, final thought. There's got to be a moment in time where you can go back and say, this defined me as a human being.
Ooh.
There's a moment in there that will be forever touched. We've had some guys break down here and just open up their souls when they talk about this. Does Shawn McGann have one of those?
I have a couple.
Sure.
I have a couple.
Sure.
I remember my freshman year. I mentioned this earlier. I didn't start as a freshman, and even though I was one of the fastest guys on the team, and even as a freshman in track and field, I was ranking anchor on the 4x100 meter relay. So for 4 years, I was one of the fastest kids in the school, and it was a really disappointment for me that I wasn't getting a lot of playing time. And I remember getting it was a game. I think it was like maybe our second to last game of the season. We got we've blown up the lead, and I finally got in to get some playing time, and I got one carry and I got pulled out of the game. And I remember it was the culmination of so much. I had high expectations for myself. I knew I had talent, and I got pulled out after one carry, and I got down to the sideline, and I just lost it. I started crying on the sideline. And Coach Goodman came over as a running back coach for the freshman team, and she's like, you can't get down on yourself like this. Like I don't know what's going on, but if you let yourself get pulled in by the negative, then that's going to be defining you, and it's going to be really hard for you to get out. And so I decided then, like, I'm not going to have that. I don't want it. If things go bad or things are not going the way that I want them to, then take corrective action, right? Work harder, do better, study harder, whatever it is. And that was a big lesson for me. And I ended up bouncing back, obviously. I had a really good career after that, but it's just funny how that those things happen. And so that was a big moment, right? And I was really young, early in my career. And Coach Giesman is a running back coach for the freshman team, right? It's not Coach Giesman coming down and sitting next to you. So when you talk about the culture and you talk about the influence and how it cascades through the different levels, it's right there, right? That's represented. So that was a big thing personally, and something that I've taken and carried on. And I haven't thought about it in a long time, but I remember crying. I remember going to special teams. I had tears in my eyes, like going to cover a punt. And getting straightened out by Coach Goodman. And the other story that I'll share, it's funny how the little things impact really big things. So I'm a state championship game. It's the fourth quarter. There may be 4 minutes left in the game, give or take, and we've got it first and goal at the 3-yard line. We're down by 5 points, and so we're lining up in the huddle, and Coach calls tackle blast right, which is obviously exactly what it sounds like. It's a power play over the right side, and I'm getting the ball, and it's the biggest play of my life. Right, the game's on the line. We're losing, and it's the do or die time, and I'm lining up for the play, and I'm not nervous at all. And I know exactly how I'm going to handle that play. because we went back, I thought back to a time in two-a-days. We actually had a scrimmage against Maryville. And we had a really scripted scrimmage. Every single play was scripted, and there were no special teams during the scrimmage. And so we ended up having like a 4th and 3 play, and then the referee was going back to Coach Keys like, do you want to run the play or do you want to reset the? Actually, it went to, I think it was Coach, one of the other coaches, I can't remember. And they were about to say, yeah, no, let's just take it back and we'll start over at 1st and 10. And Coach Giesman steps in. He's like, no, I want to see something. So then he huddles the team up and he calls the same play. And so when he said that, I want to see something, I knew he was saying, I want to see how this team handles the 4th and short. I want to see who's going to come. And I'm sure he called it out for our linemen. I'm sure he called it out for me. And I remember getting up I'm thinking, what am I going to do here? And I broke it down, just like we talked about earlier about the small things. And I said, I'm going to hit this hole fast. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hit this hole hard. And before that, I'm going to take the first step. I'm going to make that first step a hard step. I'm going to get my aiming point right. I'm going to get the mesh point right with the quarterback. But that first step, I'm going to get that one dead right. And I got the ball and I ran for a 9-yard play on 4th and 3 and got the first down in the scrimmage. And so when I lined up in the state championship game, I thought about that moment. Back in camp in a scrimmage before the season even started. About that moment. And Coach Giesman had me prepared exactly for that moment 4 months earlier. And so I got the ball and I ran in and then I scored a 3-yard touchdown, winning touchdown in the state championship game. Because he had me ready back in August.